This episode of Fans Talk Lucha Underground has been brought to you by the great members of our community, the Squared Circle of Trust. Because of your help, we're able to afford the costs of producing, hosting, and distributing this content. And we really couldn't do it without your support. If you haven't started supporting us yet and you enjoy our time together every week, pledge $1 a month or more on squaredcircleoftrust.com. Now, it's time for episode 33 of Fans Talk Lucha. From the Fans Talk Podcast family, fanstalkpodcast.com, this is episode 33 of Fans Talk Lucha. On this week's episode, we recap and react to Lucha Underground Season 2, Episode 4. Fans Talk Lucha isn't your regular wrestling podcast. It's a documentary in the making where I have a chance to watch Lucha Underground with a non-wrestling fan and talk about what our impressions of what went down. My name is Garvin. With us today, as always, the writer and voice of Kendall on Suburban Mysteries podcast, Steph. Say hello, Steph.
I wish you hadn't led with my shitty acting. That is the worst of the things I do.
The writer
okay.
of and voice of. For those who have pledged $5 a month or more of support in the Squared Circle of Trust, please make sure to check out the Patreon feed later on this week for a brand new episode of Squared Circle of Trust. Nick and I, we're going to be talking TNA Lockdown, NXT Revival, and the stunning ending to this week's Samoa Joe versus Sami Zayn match. Plus, we're going to talk about the topics that you have posted in the Slack community. Again, to show your support, pledge your support now at squaredcircleoftrust.com. All right, so let's get right into this episode again. Season 2, Episode 4 of Lucha Underground. We started off with, and actually,
we're not really sure how it started off.
So, yeah, we aren't sure because it seemed like it started off with the Mac finding Sexy Star running scared. However, at the end of the episode, we saw pretty much a similar scene. So I don't know if it was just how the DVR recorded it. It recorded the end of the episode at the beginning, or there was like a doubled playing, or I don't know.
It was very confusing.
It was confusing. But anyways, she's back in the temple, and she alluded to the fact that the Moth's sister is also there. But that was it. That's all we saw.
This is the first time we've really seen her scared.
Yes. Yeah, that was the one thing notable. And just because it was kind of hard to figure out, like, you know, because the Mac said, who did this to you? But who did what? I mean, like, nothing was obvious as, like, she wasn't, like her hands weren't, trapped or tied together. Like, there wasn't anything outside of her being scared. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that was the first time that we saw Sexy Star scared. So maybe because that was the first time that we saw it, maybe that was the first time Mac saw it too. And that was his response to it. So next up, we saw Ivelisse. Why
can't you say her name?
I don't know. She confronted Katrina, and basically threatened to have Team Fight take the titles back, the Trios championships back from the Disciples. But Katrina said, no, you do not get an automatic rematch. You have to basically earn the shot again. So they would find out later that night who that was, and it was pretty much the next match.
There's a little bit of Cueto coming through in Katrina.
A little bit.
Being like, no. You got to work harder for this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, her motivations, I think, are different than Cueto, but very similar style. So obviously her motivations is she, maybe knows that Team Fight could take those titles off the Disciples of Death, but she is, associated with them.
I have not liked her as a manager so far, but that was the first glimmer I had that gave me some hope.
So we got to see who their opponents were. It was the first match of the night, Team Fight versus Chavo and the remaining members of the crew, Cisco and Cortez.
I don't even I can't even tell you who's Cisco and who's Cortez. I hate them so much.
Cisco is the round
Doesn't
one.
matter. I don't care.
Well, you should care because okay.
There's the dude who died, and then there's the fat guy in the shorts, and then there's bald dude.
Well, but see, I'm with you. I don't like the crew. I don't like Chavo, and normally I would not care. But now that we've got this side story with Cortez and Dick Pornstache, as we have called him in the Slack community, they have like this PD connection. So that's interesting to me more than the crew is. So, now it's easy to know the difference between everyone. Cisco is the round one with the bandana.
The guy who dresses like Bobby Hill.
Wait, is it yes, just like Bobby Hill. Is it a bandana or a winter cap? I can't recall now.
Oh, I can't even tell
I don't even know. But he just
I'm
looks
usually
dumb.
doing something else when they're wrestling.
Shorts and tall socks is what I remember.
He's dressed like a dad from Parma. All he needs are sandals.
So what'd you think of the match?
It was better than I expected it to be. I hate the crew, so I hate to say it, but it was a little more interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was a solid match. Yeah, I thought it was a solid match. And it's also interesting that there's like really no signs of disagreement or infighting with Ivelisse and Helico and Son of Havoc. Do you think that's going to continue? That they're all on the same page now?
No. I think they're just taking turns with their drums. And can we talk about Ivelisse's pants?
Yeah, that was the biggest topic that I noted. During us watching, that was the one thing that we both pinpointed on, trying to figure out what she was wearing. The pants, they're weird.
They had caught on a white thread, some fabric with white thread in the back. And so while she was wrestling, it kept dangling down and it looked like a feminine hygiene product.
Now, I did not see this. Yeah.
It made me snicker, which is wrong. Please retire those pants, Ivelisse. They're not doing anyone any favors.
I didn't see that, but I do know that her belt, which is like kind of like a scarf type material, like what are those? Polyester scarf? Is that a thing? A really thin scarf, the shiny ones. It was black, but I thought that's what you were referring to.
Please tell me more about your descriptions of women's fashion.
Yeah, it was hard to tell like what she was wearing, if they had spikes on the pants. That's what my first thought was, and then I thought they were just like dangly balls.
How do you put on pants with all those holes in them? Because when I try to put on fishnet stockings, my toes stick through them, and I feel like an idiot. I can't even imagine trying to put my feet through pants like that.
Yeah, and that's what we figured out.
And that's what we were focused on instead of the crew.
we finally figured out, like, at a certain angle, you could see that there were actually holes, almost like a cheese grater. So those are the cheese grater gold pants.
They're awful.
So anyways, Angelico, Ivelisse, and Havoc, Son of Havoc won that match. But most likely they will have to go through another trios team before they get a title match.
I'm sure that's when shit will start to fall apart in their group.
Yeah. So, we got a video package. Johnny Mundo shared some facts with us while we saw, him training, working out.
I'd like him better if he just didn't talk.
Well, he says that he's the star of the company and should be and will be the champion. And I'm not interested in either.
No, I'm not a big Mundo fan.
No.
I mean, he's pretty, but he doesn't need to be on the mic.
Okay. Backstage, Dick Pornstache basically goes after Cortez, berates him for losing, for being a bad cop and for sucking, because that's what the crew does, and Chavo. And we did see that also in the ring after their match. Chavo berated the crew for sucking. So it should be expected. And yeah, that was it. That was that segment. We also got another video package. Prince Puma was named Luchador of the Week after last week. Do you agree with that?
Deserved, yes.
Okay. All right. So, again, we've been calling him Dick Pornstache on the Slack community. At this point, he had not been named on the show yet, but his debut match, Joey Ryan, he's going by the name that we all know him by. So, he goes up against Cage. What'd you think of this match? Well, and what did you think of Joey Ryan, the character?
I loved him. Love him. I'm not going to call him Joey Ryan. He's now Dick Pornstache forever to me, but the members only jacket and the baby oil and all the body hair, I love an over-the-top character, and he's perfect. I love him.
The baby oil on the chest, I thought was funny. Had to have been like a cup of baby oil that he just put down his pants. Had to have been uncomfortable because he didn't he didn't rub it in. It was just sitting there in his.
Yeah, I wonder if it was leaking
jams.
out when he and Cage were grabbing under each other later on in the match. Like if you got a handful of baby oil. It was a good match though.
Yeah.
I like Cage despite everything about him. You'd think I wouldn't like him. Stryker said something interesting when he was introducing Cage. He was talking about how Cage is so great because he doesn't rely on the modern trendy trappings that these tough guy wrestlers rely on. No tattoos, no beards. But Cage has some of the douchiest facial hair I've ever seen, along
not a
with
beard.
that hairstyle. Are you kidding?
It's not a beard.
It's almost a beard. It's mostly chops combined with
Almost
that
a beard.
asshole hairstyle. How does he not think that Cage thinks he's trendy?
Well,
He
that
calls
is
himself Cage.
no. Well, it's not only that though. He also last week called himself the Swolverine. And Swole is very hip and trendy right now as far as saying.
Stryker, I don't know what you're smoking, but he is obviously relying on gimmicks, and I'm cool with that.
But he
like
looks
gimmicks.
different. He looks different, and the way and his movement in the ring is very crisp and clean.
It's unexpected given his size. Yeah. It was a good match, and I always like watching Cage wrestle because he always surprises me.
Yeah, so there was two moments in this match that I noted. One, Joey Ryan hit a wonderful drop kick. It looked very nice. His super kicks though needs improvement. They all looked pretty awful.
What's
I think
super kick?
Super kick is the heel move that you call the heel move before being criticized
the kick to the face?
on YouTube. Yeah, basically it's like the side thrust kick into the jaw.
I just can't believe that that's allowed. It's so dangerous.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, his super kick sucked. But on the opposite side of that, Cage had a new finish, or maybe it's a signature move. I don't know what they're going to label it yet, but it's how he ended this match. And that was like this vertical suplex, into a sit down tombstone slam type thing. It was brutal. It looked really cool. So I was into that. After the match, Mundo attacked Cage, but basically got taken down. And, Cage reminded Mundo that the crowd calls him Cage because he's not a man. He's a machine. So I know you need that explanation every once in a while.
Is that why they call him Cage?
Yeah, it is. That is why they call him Cage.
Should he have been the dude oiling himself up instead of Dick Pornstache? Because from my understanding, machines need to be regularly oiled.
Well, but they don't need to be
could be their
slathered
next-
with oil. It's only like on the
That could be the
joints.
next video package.
I know it's only like the joints, and that's more of like a grease. It's not a baby oil. It's like
It could be.
yeah, I don't know. My only complaint about this match was just the fact that Joey Ryan's debut was against Cage, and they're trying to push Cage as like this top guy. So I was kind of expecting Joey Ryan to get the win here, but once it was announced Cage, like it was obvious that he was not going to win. So I just thought it was weird, like just a weird way to debut Joey Ryan. Like obviously he's he's that creepy over the top character. It's a jokey style character, but I hope that that's not where they're gonna put both Joey Ryan and Cortez moving forward. Like I'm hoping that there's something else other than, the jokey aspect of it.
I don't know. He teamed up with the Crew, so he's kind of,
And that's
as
the
much
problem.
as I like him,
Yeah.
he's dead to me.
Yeah, that's really the major issue. So okay, Dragon Azteca 2.0 is training with Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio basically teaches him about the history and what he's fighting for. And the gist of it is that Cueto, and I believe it was the president of Mexico, they partnered up to basically bring back the descendants of the 7 tribes, the Aztec tribes, to have them fight. Dragon Azteca's goal, though, is to do the impossible, and that is unite the 7 descendants, or the 7 tribes. So like we really hadn't gotten that before.
Like in what sense?
Like
at a potluck?
Maybe like a dinner, or maybe
like a transformer,
or like a transformer where they're all like different pieces, like 2 are the leg, 2 are the arms.
I don't think I'd like that at all.
And then they merge into like one giant thing that takes on Cueto's brother, because he seems like a pretty big dude. Maybe
it could take on Cage because he's another machine. Mech Wars.
Warm-up match would be against Cage. And then
I feel like I should be writing for Lucha Underground.
You should be. All right. Main event time. We have Prince Puma versus Pentagon Jr. Thoughts on the match?
Puma is fantastic. He came out strong. So precise and light on his feet, just like a puma. I mean, I know he calls himself Puma and he's not being ironic, but I just love watching him. He's so clean. It was a joy to watch. It was my favorite match.
Definitely match of the night, I thought.
It was a good main event. Good choice.
The one thing that has me kind of curious is just the fact that there is seemingly more Pentagon Jr. fans than there are Puma fans. And I'm wondering, I mean, because the commentary tries to sell that as, you know, it doesn't matter if you're good or bad. If you are a good fighter, then the crowd is going to take to you more. But I'm just curious, like, where Puma fits in that, because he does have, like, his fan base, but definitely Pentagon Jr.'s fans are louder. So is that a failure in the story that they've told with Puma, or
maybe the fans are just drunker and therefore they're louder and they're chanting?
It's just hard to tell. I mean, because, you know, we've always had our complaints about Puma where, you know, he doesn't talk. The relationship between him and Conan was
a little creepy.
Odd.
Creepy,
yeah.
puppet-like.
It's just, I'm just wondering, like, how would you, if you were writing for Lucha Underground, how would you make Puma, over with the crowd?
I would have had him break Pentagon's arm.
But that's a heel move.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if you're a heel or if you're a face. All it matters is if you're good in the ring. You just said that yourself.
No,
their current management has been pushing the violent angle. I mean, Pentagon, here, think of it as vigilante justice. Pentagon's been walking around breaking people's arms forever. Not just wrestlers. He's gone after Melissa Santos.
Yeah.
So it would kind of be a service for Puma to say, this is what you get, dude.
Well, just to clarify, I wasn't saying that. I was repeating what commentary said to explain why there were so many Pentagon Jr. fans.
But for consistency, if that's what they're saying, that it doesn't matter, then boom, 2 minutes later, have your seemingly good guy break someone's arm. It would, I think, drive that point home.
So you would have done that in this episode?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's got to be some kind of transition, like why he would turn and do something, you know, like a bad guy.
Well, when you,
like
for at least one season, have been kind of pushed around and your career's been dangled by someone else, and then you're put in the ring with someone who's just known to be kind of a dick, wouldn't you snap and be like, I could be a dick too. This is my life. I'm in control of my own destiny. Screw you guys.
I just think it would have been an opportune time to do it because, like, he just won the match, basically sealing the idea that he's going to face Mil.
He won on a technicality.
Right. It was a controversial ending.
It wasn't really a clean ending. So, you know, they could have continued to fight and an arm break could have happened. Maybe not the dramatic way that Pentagon does it, where he kind of terrorizes people by standing over them and then doing it. But maybe a continuation of the fight and then an accidental but not quite accidental arm break. You know, a hold gone wrong. Something realistic. You know, that could maybe give him a taste of the dark side without being out and out villainous.
So let's talk about the ending, because I do not like it. It's a controversial ending. Basically, Pentagon Jr. had Puma in basically a surfboard submission that he turned into a pin, which also put Pentagon Jr.'s shoulders on the mat. So it was kind of hard to tell when the ref was counting, who he was counting for, but ended up giving the win to Puma. And yeah, I think I'm not happy that there wasn't like a clear-cut winner, but I think that would have been okay. It's an okay loss for Pentagon Jr., but then to have Puma basically embarrass Pentagon Jr.
Well,
I thought it was weird.
You can argue that that's a little bit of a heel move, too. That he was like, I could do this if I wanted. Yeah. But I'm not gonna, because I'm too cool for that. I mean, that's kind of a dick move.
Agreed.
I like it. I like seeing a little aggression out of Puma.
Okay. That was the episode. It felt really short, I felt. You know,
that's
like
because
overall.
Last week we watched them back to back.
Well, yeah, that's true. We did. I suppose the last episode was a double episode. But yeah, I mean, it just kind of flew by. Only 3 matches, a lot of backstage segments.
I thought the matches were a lot more interesting this week than they were last week.
All right, so let's go into win fail. For those listening for the first time, this is our opportunity to acknowledge both the best and worst things that happened on Lucha Underground this week. So, Steph, what was your win of the week?
Puma. He was solid the whole way through.
Okay. My win of the week is going to go to Joey Ryan. I thought the debut was good. I thought his backstage segment was good. I like the whole use of the sucker at the start of the match. I love how he stands on the ropes, basically showing himself off to the crowd. You know.
Was he supposed to be channeling Kojak a little with that sucker?
Yeah, I don't know. It was really interesting. So that was my win of the week. I enjoyed the character so far. I'm really interested to see how they take it from here. Fails of the week. What was your fail? Chavo
and the crew.
Yeah.
They're a shit show. I hate them.
Yeah. No, there's no disagreement there.
You know what we didn't see though? There was no chair. Is this the first time we've seen Chavo in the ring without bringing a chair into it?
No, he didn't always bring the chair with him. He would take it from Melissa Santos, or he would take it from underneath the ring or something. So.
But I mean, this is the first time I think I've seen him in a long time without using a chair.
And he was really angry at the crew for losing and didn't threaten them with a chair. So I don't know. Maybe
he's changing.
Maybe he is evolving his character.
I'm still skeptical and I'm still going to hold off.
Yeah, he's still wearing that poncho, which is awful.
That poncho. That whole match, I mean, I love watching Team Fight wrestle, but that whole match was a fashion disaster. With the socks and the pants and the poncho. I mean, come on, guys.
All right, so let's go into final thoughts for this episode. We are now 4 episodes into season 2. I'm noticing some feelings on my side as we're watching together. I'm noticing that you don't necessarily seem to be as interested in this. So, normally we give series 3 episodes before we judge. Obviously we have a first season of this series, but 4 episodes in, is this as good as season 1?
If you had asked me last week, I would have said absolutely not. I think it picked up a little this week, but there's some things that I really liked about it when I first started watching it that I'm missing this season. The first one's Dario Cueto. I love him. He's a great boss. He is cheesy. His acting is great. I like him a lot, and not seeing him it's sad. It's one of the things I looked forward to. Also, we're seeing fewer ridiculous video packages, which is another thing that appealed to me because they were always kind of just so tongue-in-cheek, and we're missing out a lot of that in just doing straight wrestling. And then when we get to the wrestling, the first 3 episodes, it seemed like it was more of your traditional brawler style. We were seeing less lucha style wrestling. And, the thing where they've got Mil and Katrina running the show and Mil just sits there in a chair. I mean, what is that?
I will agree with you.
There's not as much storyline going on, and that's what I like. I don't know anything about wrestling.
They seem to have trimmed down some of these stories, or at least the quantity of stories that they would tell every episode. Like you would have something from Aerostar or Drago. Even if they didn't have a match, you would have their story being talked about in some capacity. We're not getting that this time. There was no mention of Cobra Moon.
No, I don't feel like we're getting the long game in this season.
Yeah.
In the previous season, they would bring up things and then you'd find out more as the season went on. And in this one, it seems like, they brought up Cobra Moon and then later that day we saw her. And, we don't really see anything except for the uniting of the 7 tribes that I see as a long game storyline. It's like when you're watching Doctor Who and they stretch out, when Davies was writing, he could stretch out a great revelation or storyline over 3 or 4 seasons and it was amazing. But then when What's-His-Face, Moffat took over, he'd bring something up and then it would climax essentially an episode and a half later, and you're like, is that the story arc?
Yeah.
So I hope we're not seeing a shortened story arc trend here in Lucha Underground, because that's one of the things that I really liked about it when we came into it.
Yeah, I just think this episode was a bad wrestling episode for what you said. It's not that Lucha Libre style. It is more of the Americanized wrestling. Like Joey Ryan versus Cage is a perfect example. More of the brawler stuff. Even the trios match took aspects of the lucha style, but was more striking, more MMA almost. And we saw a little bit about with that with Puma versus Pentagon Jr. So it just wasn't the style and flow that we normally were expecting from Lucha Underground. And yeah, hopefully it is kind of like these little isolated incidents as we start this season, but right now, not necessarily happy with the wrestling, not necessarily happy that, you did mention the uniting of the 7 tribes versus trying to get them to all fight. That is the long game story, but we're only getting like one segment of that. Like, shouldn't that be really more important?
It. And you brought this up last week, and it's something that really makes a big difference. They used to do live music, and we loved it, and now they're relying heavily on pre-recorded, canned, edited music, and I don't like that. I'm a musician. I like live music. Bring back the bands.
Yeah. That
would make a big difference in just, I think, the energy level. You're excited when you hear it. And, they have some pop rock intro playing, and that doesn't do it for me.
Yeah. So not to suggest that Lucha Underground is bad. I mean, I'm still enjoying it. I'm just not enjoying it as much as I was last.
It doesn't seem to have
season.
The energy that it did last season.
Okay. Any other final thoughts?
Nope.
Okay. This series, as well as the rest of the podcast released through fanstalkpodcast.com, are supported exclusively by our Patreon subscribers. You can subscribe today for as little as $1 a month to receive early access to our content, as well as get your ears on some exclusive content that we produce throughout this month, made available only to Squared Circle of Trust members. For Steph, I'm Garvin. We will see you next Tuesday. No, we will see you next week.
Wow.
Sorry, that was FTBW close. Adios. Fanstalk Lucha is part of the Fanstalk Podcast family. It can be found at fanstalklucha.com. The Fanstalk Podcast family is a subsidiary of Tigar Creative, LLC.